श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। ओम ओम। पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणी। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे फुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णा प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दुग्धा गोपालनन्दन पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। भीष्मद्रोणतटा जयद्रथजला गान्धारनीलोत्पला शल्यग्राहवती कृपेण वहनी कर्णेन वेलाकुला अश्वत्थामविकर्णघोरमकरा दुर्योधनावर्तिनी सोत्तीर्णा खलु पाण्डवैरणनदी कैवर्तकः केशवः। पाराशर्यवचः सरोजममलं गीतार्थगन्धोत्कटं नानाख्यानककेसरं हरिकथा सम्बोधना बोधितं। लोके सज्जनषट्पदैरहरः पेपीयमानं मुदा भूयाद्भारतपङ्कजं कलिमल प्रध्वंसि न श्रेयसे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुत स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैर्गायन्ति यं सामगाः। ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणा देवाय तस्मै नमः। देवाय तस्मै नमः। देवाय तस्मै नमः। Welcome to the study of the Bhagavad Gita. We are almost towards the end of the 6th chapter, Dhyana Yoga. Arjuna asks a very pertinent question. Suppose I am practicing spiritual disciplines in this life. I have put forth a lot of effort, but due to some mishap or some reason, if I am unable to succeed in my effort, or if I slip away from the path of yoga, what will happen to me, or what will happen to such people? So Sri Krishna very beautifully explains in the 40th verse, Partha naiveha namutra vinashastasya vidyate nahi kalyana krit kaschid durgatim tata gacchati. He addresses Arjuna as Tata. Tata is a term that is used to children. My child, though Arjuna was of the same age as Sri Krishna, yet he is addressing him because a teacher, even if a teacher is younger than the student, yet the teacher will call him as Tata or a child. So here it says, affectionately addressing him as Tata, as son, he says, Partha iha Partha naiveha na amutra vinashas tasya vidyate. Such a person who has slipped from the path of yoga will not achieve or will not lose what he or she has gained in this life. Vinashaha means losing here. Destruction or vinasha is losing here. So nahi kalyana krit kaschit durgatim tatha gacchati. So he says, any virtue that you have performed will never go into ruin, will never go waste. Whatever you have done, it will always be saved. That is why the law of karma is very strong. It says, whatever you have done, you will have to reap the benefits of it. Either you reap the benefits of it or you reap the ill effects of it. But you must. There is no way. Whatever you do, any action that we do, even thinking, thought is also an action. Even a thought that you have thought, that also will not go waste. It's all hidden. One of our Swamis, Atmeshananda, he used to say that there is a treasurer sitting up there in the heavens. He is a very good accountant, and he will keep accounts of everything, pi to pi, everything he will keep. So, Partha na iva iha na amutra. Now, that means in the other spheres, suppose you have done a lot of good deeds, so to say, not unselfish deed, but just good deeds to help people, even though it may be for selfish ends, but you have done something good. So what will happen to such person? When you go to the other sphere waiting for the next birth, there you will find a lot of enjoyment. So you will be most welcomed over there, and you will find a lot of enjoyment. This is this was the tradition in Vedic age. They were thinking of this life, but more so of the next life. Me in the next life, all their actions were geared towards the enjoyments in heaven, as some of the Semitic religions also have the same kind of feeling. Anyway, so here he says that such a person who follows the path of spirituality will not go into ruin, or his efforts or her efforts will not be wasted. So this is one great thing. If we think good of others, good will be the outcome. See, this great mantra that all of us know, what is it? That is, Ma kaschit duk sarve bhavantu sukhinah sarve santu niramaya sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. This sarve janaha sukhino bhavantu. May all be happy. See, thoughts are things. Whatever you throw, that will go and affect. So if you throw your thoughts in such a manner that you pray for the welfare of all beings, you send powerful thoughts for the welfare of all beings, it will definitely go and reach those people. Do not underestimate the power of thoughts. Then sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha. May all be free from This is, may none be subject to misery, the third one. And the fourth one is also very important. Ma kaschit dukkham apnuyat or dukkha bhag bhavet. From me let there be no harm, or from me let there be no misery to anyone. This is one of the greatest prayers that we can think of. Let whatever I do, let me do it with full knowledge of it and with a determined will. And when I do that, what will happen is I will not hurt anyone by thought, word, or deed. By mistake, if I am not very careful, yes, we do that. We do hurt other people if we are not careful. But if we are very careful, that is where this buddhi comes to play. The refined buddhi comes to play. The refined buddhi is that which will say, look, you should not do this, or you do this. So it will guide you. Buddhi is that which guides you properly. Therefore, he says, what's it? A person who follows the path of yoga will not go into ruin. Once Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi was asked this question. You say, somebody asked this question, sir, you say that through silence everything can be achieved. If you are silent, chummairu, that was his words. Chummairu means be quiet. Quieten your mind, quieten your thoughts, be quiet. Do not send any disturbing thoughts anywhere. He says, how is it that silence can be very powerful? You say through silence, knowledge can be communicated and so on and so forth. So Ramana Maharshi responded, said, a realized soul sends out waves of spiritual influence because he or she has become so pure within that whatever emanates from that person is only for the good of or the betterment of the whole universe. So he says that such a person sends out the waves of spiritual influence which draw many people towards him. He may sit in a cave in great silence, but people will be drawn. His life itself was like that. Ramana Maharshi, he was sitting in that Virupaksha cave in Tiruvannamalai, and slowly people started to be attracted like a magnet, attracting the iron filings. So people got attracted. Real sadhakas, real seekers started coming to him. And that's how even a person like Sri Ramakrishna, he was somewhere as a temple priest. But slowly, all the disciples started arriving. They started coming towards him. And his attraction was so great. Swami Premananda, a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, he says that formerly I was very much attached to my mother, especially my mother. But after coming to Sri Ramakrishna, I felt that even in my mother's ambitions or expectations about me, there was some selfishness. Whereas with Sri Ramakrishna, there was no expectation at all. He wanted only our welfare. So I became so attracted towards him that I did not want to stay anymore with my family. So great was the attraction of Sri Ramakrishna. So all these great saints, they may sit in a corner without even talking to people, but they are attracted towards. They attract people towards themselves. Then Arjuna also asks this question: what will happen to such a person after death? So Sri Krishna answers, such a person will not be in trouble either here or hereafter, in another sphere of existence. So Shankaracharya comments upon that word. Nahi vinashaha tasya vidyate. Vinasha. What is vinasha? That means destruction. He comments on that. Nasho nama purvasmat hina janma praptihi sa yoga bhrashtasya na asti. That is, such a person who has practiced spiritual disciplines in their lives or in his or her life, he won't be degraded to a life worse than the earlier one. He will not get a worse life than the earlier ones. He will definitely proceed forward. Swami Vivek, I like this philosophy of Swami Vivekananda, or the sayings of Swami Vivekananda, where Swamiji says, man is traveling from truth to truth, from a truth that is lower to a truth that is higher. From a truth that is lower to a truth that is higher. That means everything that is here in this universe is nothing but truth. Satyam, Satyam, Satyam. Everything is truth only. Only certain truths are irrelevant. They are lower truth. It may be necessary for some people, and for others, you go or travel higher and higher. See, that is why Holy Mother Sharda Devi used to say, do not look down upon anyone, not even an ant. Do not look down upon anyone, because they are all evolving. Do not think this person is a fool and I am better than him or her. That person has been placed in that position. Just accept that position of that person. If you can help that person, then you hold his hand and then raise him. Otherwise, if you cannot do it, do not criticize people. These are great teachings that we get from the great saints, that you do not look down upon anyone at all. All are traveling towards truth. We are not traveling from untruth to truth, but we are traveling from truth that is lower to truth that is higher. So we have this famous mantra which all of you know, Asatoma Sadgamaya. Now there, Asat does not mean untruth. Unfortunately, for lack of proper terminology in English, it has been translated as lead me from untruth to truth. But if you really have to translate it, you will have to say that lead me from that which is of lower truth to truth that which is higher. So this is something which we should always keep in mind. Do not look down upon anything or anybody. But by force of habit, sometimes we do that. But we must be reminded, this is real sadhana, is to remind ourselves these great virtues, that you need to always raise yourself high by not looking down upon somebody, but by raising yourself on a pedestal where you see the oneness of all beings. That's it. So in the next verse, Sri Krishna talks about the afterlife. Prapya punya kritam lokan ushitva shashvati samaha shuchinam srimatam gehe yoga prashto bhijayate. Prapya punya kritam lokan ushitva shashvati samaha. The fallen yogi goes after death to the spheres of the righteous, and after having lived there for unnumbered years, is reborn in this world in a pure and prosperous family. All our scriptures say that this human birth is the most precious of all births. Why? Because only through human birth we can become one with the divine. So this eulogy is given in our scriptures, that This life that we have, this birth, human birth that we have, must not be wasted. It must not be neglected. So make all efforts to raise yourself, rise higher and higher and higher until you become one with Brahman. So even those who go to the other spheres, like other lokas, heavens, and all of that, they also have to come down to this earth as and be a human being, and then raise oneself and become one with the divine. For Brahmajnana, for the knowledge of Brahman, it is essential for everyone to have this human birth. So Sri Krishna is saying here that even having, after living for unnumbered years in the other spheres, he is reborn in this world in a pure and prosperous family. I will read from this wonderful book by Swami Ranganathananda ji, a paragraph. He says, "We all live and one day will die. Is everything over upon death? That suspicion remains true. Every human mind has asked this question. Asti tyeke nayam asti chaike." In the Katha Upanishad says, some say there is a life after, some say there is not. So Nachiketa asks this question of Yama. So you are the right person to answer this question. He says, we may not see with these eyes, but something is there that transcends death. Based upon that truth of rebirth, Sri Krishna says, when that yoga bhrashta, that means one fallen from yoga, dies, he or she has only lost the physical body, the stula sharira, but the person with the sukshma sharira, the subtle body, continues and tries to get a new birth. All of his or her tendencies in this life will determine the type of birth that person will have in the next incarnation. Yatha karma, yatha shrutam, in accordance with their work and in conformity with their knowledge, as the Katha Upanishad puts it. What kind of birth will one have? Sri Krishna has given here two types of births as examples. What is it? One is Shuchinam Srimatam Gehe. Such a person will be born in a household wherein the parents are Shuchi or pure, and Srimatam. At the same time, they are rich. They have earned money using righteous means, and they themselves have practiced spiritual disciplines in their past, and therefore they have they are enjoying the necessities of life without having to struggle too much. So when a yoga bhrashta, a person who has fallen from the path of yoga bhrashta, he or she, when that yoga bhrashta passes away and then is reborn, so he will be born or she will be born in a house wherein the parents are virtuous, and also that they do not lack any material comforts. Having got this ease in one's life, such a sadhaka, such a spiritual aspirant, he gets this impetus to go forward, to proceed. So wherever he or she has stopped, he will start it again. It is like a thread. So he keeps holding to that thread and then will proceed forward. Shuchinam Srimatam Gehe. And then in that, there are many incidents. And I think I gave you the example of Balaram Bose, a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. he was a great disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. He was a jamindar, a big landlord, and he wanted to practice spiritual discipline. He was not bothered about money and other things. He would save every cent, so much so that he would walk all the way from his house in Calcutta, though he could afford a carriage. He would not. He would walk all the way, so that he could save some cents. When somebody some money, and somebody asked the question of him, "Why is it that you are so miserly? You do not spend this money?" He says, "By that money that I save, I can help or I can take care of some holy person. That is why I am doing that." Anyway, so that is one type of devotee. And the next verse, Sri Krishna says, "Athava yoginam eva kule bhavati dhimatam." अथवा योगिनामेव कुले भवति धीमताम् एतद् हि दुर्लभतरं लोके जन्म यत् ईदृशम्. Or he is reborn in a family of men full of wisdom and spirituality. Rebirth under such conditions is passing hard to get in this world. It's difficult to get such a household in this world. That means he will be born in a family where there may not be much physical comfort, but there will be plenty of opportunities for that person to practice the spiritual discipline, because the atmosphere is sattvic, the atmosphere is pure. And Sri Krishna emphasizes that this kind of birth is one of the best. Being born in an impoverished family, in a poor family, but in a family where the parents are devotees or they are themselves yogis. Yoginam eva kule bhavati. That means they are themselves yogis. They must have been fallen somewhere. So they give birth to a greater type of yogis. So if you read the religious literature of the world, you will see everywhere this Christ himself. He was born to Joseph, a carpenter, very poor family, but a very virtuous father, a virtuous mother, extraordinarily caring and extraordinarily compassionate. Whereas the previous type, Bhagavan Buddha, he was born in a very rich family. The parents were good, but he was born over there, and after having gone through all the luxuries of life, he realizes, "Oh, where am I now? See, this is not the place for me," and therefore he leaves and goes and he practices his spiritual disciplines. In the case of Sri Ramakrishna, his father and mother, they were very poor. In fact, the story goes that when Kshudiram, his father, went to Gaya, that is, which there is the footprint of Lord Vishnu, and there is that famous temple. So he had gone on a pilgrimage. He had gone to Rameshwaram in the south, and he went in the north to Gaya. And there, when he went there, he had a dream. And in that dream, Gaya Vishnu comes to him and says, "Kshudiram, I will be born as your son." Kshudiram shuddered. He was already quite old. And he said, "Oh Lord, why should you be born in my house? I won't be able to take care of you properly." Then the Lord said, "You don't have to worry about it. I will take care of myself. I will come." Sri Ramakrishna used to say this, and he used to also say, when a rich person goes to his poor servant's house, decides to go to his poor servant's house, and the servant is very hesitant, "How can I take care of you? How can I host you?" So he said, you don't have to worry. So Sri Ramakrishna says that before he goes, he would send food, he would send a seat to sit, he would send a carpet and everything over there so that it is furnished by the time he reaches that place. The Lord also does the same thing. He looks after himself. So here he says, Athava yoginameva kule bhavati dhimatam. Shankaracharya comments upon this beautifully. I will read it. Athava srimatam kulad anyasmin yoginam eva daridranam kule bhavati jayate dhimatam buddhimatam. Or he says, srimatam kulad anyasmin, either the household of a rich person or in the household of daridra, of a poor person, kule bhavati jayati. And he further says, etadhi durlabhataram, such a birth is indeed very rare. Durlabha is very rare. Shankara says, etadhi janmayad daridranam yoginam kule durlabhataram dukkha labhyataram. Indeed, extremely difficult to obtain such a birth. Purvam apekshya loke janmayat idrisham yathokta visheshena kule. That means in the previous verse it has been mentioned that one can be born in the house of a rich person, but such a birth, taking birth in a poor family, is much more beneficial, and it is much rarer. It is much rarer. It was this parents of the famous trio, that is Jnaneshwar, Muktabai, and Jnandev. These three great Maharashtrian saints. Their father was at one time, he had gone to Varanasi and he was staying in a monastery. But for some reason, his guru told him, no, you have to go back. You go back to your village, marry, and you lead a virtuous life over there. He said, I have already become a monk. How is it that you are sending me back? But his guru said, no, you must go. So Jnaneshwar's father goes back to his village, but as was the tradition in those days, if a person has become a monk and he returns to family, the whole village would boycott him. So both Jnaneshwar's parents were boycotted. They had to live on the outskirts of the village, just like the parayas or the untouchables. They used to live there. But yet, they used to go to the town and they used to get some bhiksha, by begging, they would get some alms and they would come, and they had these three children. And all these three children were also taunted by the villagers. But out of them came those three great saints, Sant Jnaneshwar, Muktabai, and Jnanadev, who have been known as the great trio Jnanis. All of them were great sadhakas and also siddhas. So, etaddi durlabhataram loke yadidrisham. But what does such a person do, having taken birth in such a household? Tatratam buddhi sanyogam labhate paurvadehikam yatate cha tato bhuyas samsiddhau kurunandana. There, Arjuna, he will regain the spiritual discernment of his previous birth. That is, the thoughts of what he was in the previous birth would come back to him or her, and then he will strive harder than ever for perfection. Because once you face once you have experienced success, one can of course, one will get the impetus to go forward. Similarly, when a person of determination faces defeat, his determination to go forward will be doubled. So he says here, Tatratam buddhi sanyogam labhate cha paurvadehikam. He will regain the spiritual discernment of his previous births, and then he will strive harder than ever. Much more effort will be put. In this life itself, I shall achieve it. Either I will achieve it or I will die. That kind of a determination will come to such a person. That means we generally, even generally speaking, we all are catching the thread of our previous births and we are progressing forward. Death is just like a kind of a sleep, so to say. And when we wake up, we get up and then we go onwards. That is the philosophy of death in Hinduism. It is said that from the age 3 onwards, it used to be 4, now children are more precautious in early ages because of so many factors. Now almost from the age of 3, this impulse of the past birth starts functioning. Some children are extremely disturbed children, even though they grow in a very good environment, and some children are extremely pious. So where does this come from? This comes from the past births. So it is just being continued. The household only gives him or her an avenue to express those past samskaras. So purva abhyasena tenaiva. So this purva abhyasa, in the next verse it says, purva abhyasena tenaiva priyate hyavashopi saha jijñasurapi yogasya shabda brahma ativartate. Even if helpless, he will be driven towards the path of yoga by the force of his previous striving. For even a beginner in the path of yoga goes above the stage requiring the aid of Vedic ritualism, not to speak then of one who has made some progress in it. See, Purva Abhyasa. From the past experience, as we say it, habits die hard. So in the same way, Purva Abhyasa, the past experiences are there, the past habits are there. Where will they go? They will find an avenue to express it, to work it out, so to say. So it will pull you, as it were. If the force, if there is a lot of accumulated bad impressions in the past, then it will start working out. If the quantum of good karmas has been great in the past and the bad karmas little, then in this life those bad karmas will be washed off, worked out, so to say, and washed off, and the good karmas will help that person to move forward. So if the force of, we can find many instances, even among the great rishis. There was this great saint called Vishwamitra, rishi called Vishwamitra. He was a king. And then he got vairagya, he got the spirit of renunciation, and then he started practicing all his spiritual disciplines. But then comes temptation. And then comes temptation and he falls prey to the temptations. Succumbs to it, but again he gets up, realizes, oh, I swerved from the path, and he again gets back and then starts practicing his spiritual discipline, and then later he becomes a Brahmarishi. He was first a Rajarshi and then he becomes a Brahmarishi. So there are these, since we are in this subject, I will try to focus a little bit on the theory of karma. The theory of karma, according to Hinduism, says that there are three types of karma. Three types. One is known as the Sanchita karma. Sanchita is the total balance that I have acquired from the past life, the total balance of all my actions, karmas, impressions rather, that I have acquired from my past. Then comes the prarabdha karma, that which has arabdha, that which has already started. I have started. So I have started experiencing the results of all of that. I have already started spending, so to say, from the bank balance that I have, Sanchita, that which has been saved. Now it has started, so I have started spending it. It has come into play. Now, whatever is there in store, that is there. But whatever I have started experiencing, I cannot do anything about it. I must experience it. I have already withdrawn the sum, so I need to spend it, as it were. And then comes the agami, it's also known as kriyamana karma, that which will come in future. My actions today, I will reap the benefits of it in future. I have a great hold on my agami karma or kriyamana karma. That means the actions that I do in future. That's why with this in light, Swami Vivekananda very famously said, you are the creator of your destiny. That means what you will be tomorrow, it can be decided by what you are now. And our scriptures also say that if you develop this jnana within, this knowledge within, the sanchita karma, that means the accumulated one, can be burnt down. And the future karmas will become inactive also. But whatever you have already started experiencing, it will continue till the body lasts. Sanchita, then prarabdha, and then agami or kriyamana karma. The very stock example that is given in Vedanta is that of a quiver wherein all the arrows are kept. The quiver is there, and then there is the bow, and then there is the arrows. There are the arrows. So you take the bow in hand and from the quiver, you set a target, and then you are about to send the arrow towards the target. Now, Sanchita is that which is there in the quiver. And if I have already released the arrow from the bow, that is known as prarabdha. It has already started traveling. But I can stop further. Suppose the second one I take, and then I pause and say, no, I am not going to leave it. I am not going to spend it. So I just leave it. I throw away both the quiver and also the arrows. Everything I remove. So these are the three types of karmas: sanchita, prarabdha, and kriyamana. So Sri Krishna says here, prayatnat yatamanastu, purvabhyasena tenaiva kriyate hyavashopisaha. Such a person, helplessly the samskaras, the prarabdha, make you to do helplessly, even though you don't want to do it, yet you are forced to do it. But do not give too much of importance to that. Vijnasurapi yogasya shabda brahma. Once you start practicing this spiritual discipline, once you put your foot in this path of this yoga, then Shabda Brahma, such a person transcends even the Shabda Brahma. What is Shabda Brahma here? The Vedic rituals are meant here. Shabda Brahma is the Vedic rituals. Vedic rituals used to be performed for some goal or means in some goal in end, some goal to be achieved. So he says that even all of that desire for heavens, etc., will be put aside, which is a greater state of mind of the yogi. Then in the next verse he says, Prayatnad yatamanastu yogi samshuddha kilbishaha aneka janma samsiddha tato yati param gatim. As for the yogi, striving diligently, he is cleansed of all his sins. That is the sanchita karma, and gains spiritual perfection after passing through several embodiments. Finally, he reaches the highest state, which consists in release from the bondage of the body. So we do not know when it will come, but it will definitely come once I have started on the path. 1 foot forward means you have raised your foot and you are moving you are closer to the goal 1 feet. You are closer by 1 feet towards your goal. So he says, even if helpless, he will be driven towards the path of yoga by the force of his previous striving. And he is cleansed of all his sins and gains spiritual perfection. Tapasvibhyodiko yogi jnanibhyopi matodikaha karmibhyaschadiko yogi tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. Sri Krishna says, "O Arjuna, you be a yogi. You become a yogi. Everyone can be a yogi. A yogi, that is one practicing meditation, is superior to a person of austerity." Sri Ramakrishna gives a wonderful formula in the gospel. He writes, he says there, which we were reading in the gospel day before yesterday. He says there that this Sandhya merges in Gayatri and Gayatri in Om. Very cryptic, but very meaningful. He says Sandhya. Sandhya means all the actions that we do, where you need to look after everything in this world. All of that will merge in Gayatri. Gayatri is in meditation. Once you go into deep meditation, all the actions will cease. They get merged in that meditation. And as you go deeper and deeper into meditation, you get merged in Om, that is the Samadhi, or in the state of realization. So all the actions that we perform in this world, any action that you perform in this world, if it is performed in a spirit of dedication to the Lord, like Sandhya is a dedication to the Lord, then it gets merged into meditation. That means your mind will slowly and slowly become calm and quiet, and it will merge in that meditation. And that meditation, when it deepens, it will go and get absorbed. Your mind will become one with the Supreme. That is what Sri Krishna is trying to explain here. A person who is practicing meditation is superior to a person who is just practicing austerities, different kinds of austerity. And he says such a person is also superior to a scholar. He is superior to a ritualist too. Therefore, O Arjuna, aim at the highest, become a yogi. You become a yogi. Yoginam api sarvesham madgate nantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yo mam same yukta tamo mataha. Of all the yogins, He is the most attuned in spiritual communion who worships me with abiding faith and with his innermost self fused with me. This is it. Sri Krishna elsewhere says in Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate Vasudevas Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha. It is indeed very rare to find people who dedicate everything to me. Bahunam Janmanamante. After many, many births, one will have this knowledge that Vasudeva Sarvam, that the Lord is everything, that I am everywhere, I am in everything. Vasudeva Sarvamiti. So such people, to get to see such people is very rare. Samahatma Sudurlabha. Therefore, he emphasizes that same thing here. Yoginam Madgatena Antaratmana. One who has entered into my being. Madgatena. Into my being. And then he says, Shraddhavan. Shraddhavan. What is Shraddha here? Shraddha means, in Shankaracharya very beautifully defines it, Shastrasya Guru Vakyasya Satya Buddhi Avadharanam Sa Shraddha Katita Sadbhiryaya Vastu Upalabhyate. Implicit faith in the words of the scripture. Because scripture is the experience of all the rishis, the saints. Shastrasya Guru Vakyasya. Who is a guru? Guru is one who has experience, who has the direct knowledge. You cannot get any better person than a guru in the spiritual field. So therefore, Guru is the nearest person who has experienced this himself or herself. Shastrasya Guru Vakyasya. Therefore, accept that person's words, accept that person's teachings as the teachings of the Lord himself. That is why Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, etc. is said to eulogize this status of the Guru. So here it says there are two things in life. One is known as Jijnasa. Jijnasa is the science of seeking. And then secondly comes Anubhava. That means experience. Seeking is outside and Anubhava is within oneself. The Anubhava is within oneself. Sri Ramakrishna's very famous example. To see milk is, or to know about milk is jnana. Then to drink milk and assimilate it is anubhava. It is experience. So both of these together is called as Shraddha. That means seeking plus experience. Both of these two together form Shraddha over here. Madgatena Shraddhavan, a person who has this kind of Shraddha, who has both knowledge and who has also this seeking or to this experience, to experience the divine. Yo mam same yukta tamaha. He who worships me with abiding faith and with his innermost self fused with me. He is, of all the yogins, the most attuned in spiritual communion. So in this chapter of the 6th chapter of Dhyana Yoga, Sri Krishna, as it were, gives to us a blueprint, a map about how to go towards spiritual life. No effort is ever wasted. This is a great dictum that we need to remember in spiritual life. Swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Even a little bit of practice will save you from lot of troubles. Mahato bhayatu. From great dangers, it will save us. So little by little, practice spiritual discipline. Every day, spend a little time. You have your worldly duties, there is no doubt about you can't escape it. But try to spare a little time for yourself. It is your time, your special time. You need to give time to your very own self. Otherwise, the world will not come and save you. You have to save yourself. You have to improve yourself. You have to go onward, onward, and onward, says Swami Vivekananda. So, with this, we will conclude the sixth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and then we will take up the seventh chapter in January. Till then, we will, I think, the third week of January, we will start studying the seventh chapter. Till then, wish you a Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year. शान्ताकारं भुजगशयनं पद्मनाभं सुरेशं विश्वाधारं गगनसदृशं मेघवर्णं शुभाङ्गं लक्ष्मीकान्तं कमलनयनं योगिहृध्यानगम्यं वन्दे विष्णुं भवभयहरं सर्वलोकैकनाथम् ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरि ओम् तत्सत् Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Swami Tadananda will continue his talk today.